Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suafoa-McClain, and I wanted to welcome everyone to this transportation radio show today. For the next hour, you will be hearing about transportation justice and climate justice from some wonderful panelists that I'm here with today. And as a reminder, the show definitely wouldn't be possible without the support from my wonderful colleagues at Front and Centered, from our lovely hosts at the Columbia City Theater, and all of the amazing grassroots organizers out there in Washington and beyond. So thank you to everyone who has made this possible today. To start, I just wanted to share a little bit about Front Centered in case this is your first time tuning in this week. And if it isn't your first time tuning in this week, welcome back. But Front Centered is a coalition of groups across Washington state that are run by and for communities of color. And we are joined by our vision of a state and a world where everybody can live happy and healthy lives. And we believe that that future is truly possible within our lifetime and beyond if we continue to change these toxic systems that depend on the extraction of our natural resources and the exploitation of our labor. So the more that we can change together, the farther we will get and the faster. So thank you for joining us today. But to really turn it back to the topic at hand, I am joined with three of our lovely advocates from the BIPOC Mobility Action Coalition, or BMAC for short. Tanisha, Vanessa, and Amandeep are some of the first members that I actually got to meet when I joined Front and Centered, and it's been a pleasure to get to know them the past couple months. So I'm really excited to be sharing this space with you all and to be in conversation. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules on a Thursday afternoon to hang out. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited. So for introductions, we are gonna share our names and our pronouns, the source of transportation that we take the most or utilize the most, or the many pieces of transportation that you use if you make use of multiple. And then where we are speaking from today, whose land are we occupying, where are we living, and I guess any other land shout outs that folks would like to share. And then lastly, we will do a vision description. So for those who are unfamiliar, a vision description is when you share your physical characteristics to give low vision and blind folks and anyone who has a loss of vision a sort of a mental image of who's in the conversation with them, who are they sharing space with. And these vision descriptions can be a really helpful way to make conversations more inclusive. So I definitely encourage our listeners out there to consider how to incorporate more of these accessibility needs and just easy actions into your work as well. So I'll start us off with the introductions, and then I will turn it to Tanisha. So you're on deck, bud, just so you know. My name is Suafoa-McClain again. I am pronoun friendly, which means that I'm comfortable using all pronouns. Feel free to use they, them as a baseline. My main source of transportation is that I do own a car, but I try to use the bus or public transportation as much as possible for just because if I have the option. Sometimes it's not always as efficient to use public transportation. So it's very helpful that I have a car and able to use it. I am on Duwamish land today. Typically, I live in Tacoma, so typically I'm occupying Puyallup tribal land. That's where I'm at. And my vision description today is that I have almost shoulder length, dark brown curly hair, fairly pale skin because winter, brown glasses that are kind of a rounder shape. And today I have on blue jeans with a white t-shirt and a sort of light brownish gray sweater vest. And that's what I'm rocking with. So I will turn it to Tanisha to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Sierra. And thank you everyone for allowing us this time. My name is Tanisha Sepulveda. And my main source of transportation, I would say, is probably my power wheelchair. But outside of that, it would be the public transportation, Metro, King County transportation there. And I am occupying Duwamish land. I'm a West Seattle resident, but this is, definitely Duwamish land. And a visual description. is I'm a light beige Latina woman, like Sarah said, with it being winter in the Pacific Northwest. I have dark brown hair. It's tied up in a bun right now. Dark features, dark eyes. I'm wearing a white sweatshirt, and I have on like burgundy leggings. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Tanisha. And then I think I'll turn it to Vanessa to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sierra. I'm happy to be here. A little bit about myself, starting out with my description. I am wearing a hot pink top with black pants, and I currently reside in Tri-Cities, Kennewick, Washington, eastern of Washington. Um, and my main source of transportation is the door-to-door service, any services that provide transportation. And of course, out here, the BFT, Benton Franklin Transportation, the public bus system is another option for me. And I think that is about it.
Great. Thank you, Vanessa. And then last but not least, I will turn it to Amandeep to introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks, Sarah, to introduce myself. My name is Amandeep Kaur and pronounced she, her, and I am living in Marysville, Washington. And my most usable transportation, I am rely on public transportation before COVID, but after COVID, I'm kind of waiting to use the public transportation because reducing the timelines and changing the bus stops, and I'm most rely on paratransit, like a door-to-door services Vanessa mentioned them earlier, and I'm getting rides from my parents sometime and my sisters, and taking Ubers is like expensive, but I'm using sometime save my time. And visual description, and I have a dark black hair and brown color. My skin color is brown, and I'm originally from India. And I'm wearing black jean with the fine purplish top and with the black jacket, and wearing glasses. I think that's all.
Nice. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thanks so much for all those great intros. And for participating today. I'm so excited. I want to just jump right in before we go to our commercial break about BMAC and y'all's work so far. So I think I'll start with turning to Amandeep again and asking if you can share a little bit more about like what is BMAC and how did y'all start working together and like on these transportation-based issues.
Yes, BMAC stands for BIPOC Mobility Action Coalition, and we are like get together all voices, people with color, people living low income, and people with the disabilities, and we are get together through the Disability Rights of Washington, and we work together, and we are working for raise our voice, like minority people, to getting struggling with the transportation and raise the issue and voice, and look forward to working hard and see the future to getting our voice higher and to getting better transportation system for people with disability, people with color, and low income. Yes.
Great. It's very exciting work. Maybe I'll turn it to Tanisha and ask like how you came to this work. How did you get involved with BMAC and DRW?
Yeah. So got involved with this work probably a couple years ago, during the beginning of the pandemic, maybe beginning of the pandemic. I was introduced to Anna Zivarts, who is the director of Disability Mobility Initiative. And she was doing a white paper research about the obstacles, mobility obstacles people have across Washington state. specifically people with disabilities. And over here in Highland Park, we have a lot of issues with sidewalks. And that's kind of the first step. I mean, before that, it was really me just complaining about the sidewalks and having to go in the road and getting yelled at by drivers and yelling back and voicing that opinion. But I guess the right person heard me. And I was introduced to her through a familiar face and voice, Crystal Monteros, who's also a member of BMAC. And I met her through the Here and Now project, and that is Washington Network for People with Paralysis. So just disabilities and transportation all kind of came together, and here we are.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I think Vanessa is joining us again. Vanessa, if you're able, do you want to share about how you came to the work that you do with BMAC and beyond that, but in like the transportation realm?
Yeah, of course. Well, I have always been passionate about making a difference in my community. And I wanted to be that voice and making that change for better accessible transportation that meets the needs of all who rely on it. And I understand the role that it plays in my life for simple errands like going to the grocery store, commuting to work and school. And a lack of the transportation can hinder people from leading an independent life because so many people like myself depend on it. Mm-hmm. It's essential. It's an aspect of daily life that should not be ignored in the disabled community as well as the elderly. And so I just wanted to be a part of the community and making that change. And that's really what brought me into this organization.
Oh, that's wonderful. Amandeep, what about you? What brought you to this work?
The same thing of what Vanessa mentioned about it. I'm kind of passionate about it and learn about it. I'm an immigrant and I'm learning about transportation system, and I'm using transportation system and learn about issues from my another organization, how blind people facing a lot of challenges using public transportation. And I work with Anna. I met with her another organization, and she gave me a couple of opportunity to learn about more issue about transportation and get chance to being voice with the Disability of Rights of Washington and BMAC group. And I was working with her like a couple of years ago, and that's I'm here.
That's wonderful. Well, I can tell that like clearly you all bring a lot of like passion and personal experience to this work, which is great. And I mean, my experience with you all, with all three of you and the rest of BMAC and Anna and BRW and so many like wonderful transit justice like advocates so far has been great. I feel like I've learned so much from you all, like both which applies to like our transportation work at Friend Centered, but goes so much farther than that. So I guess I'm thinking of just like what is the future of BMAC and beyond. I know that y'all have like really wonderful things in the work, both just like on your local levels, but also this wonderful statewide like sort of connection or network that you all have been creating through all of these different mobility advocates. So I'm wondering if y'all can talk a little bit more about like what's the future of BMAC? Like what are your aspirations so far? And any of you can jump in if you would like, but we can start with Tanisha if we want.
Yeah, I'll jump right in. Say that the future of BMAC, we would definitely like to see more membership growing across more areas of Washington State, really reaching out and kind of getting more voices involved, because I feel like that's really a big part of what it was about. Like how Amandeep was saying, is really empowering the voices that aren't typically heard in matters where it really does greatly matter, seeing as we're oftentimes the people who are using public transportation on a day-to-day basis. So just really growing a network and spreading the message. And I mean, not to bury the lead, but in really promoting Week Without Driving, which think we'll probably be able to talk about a little more later. I don't want to give too much away, but spreading that message farther and wider as well.
Yeah, okay, that's wonderful. What about you, Vanessa? What do you think the future of BMAC holds?
Well, our goal is to expand our reach and wear awareness about our to our leaders about how important accessible transportation is, and advocate for greater fundings to support this cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So y'all, to follow up on that, it sounds like you're looking both of like the grassroots levels, working with your local jurisdictions, but I know that y'all have some interest, right, in like the statewide, even broader, of just like really state applicable laws and directives, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Amandeep, what do you think the future of BMAC is?
I think I mentioned earlier, like Tanisha mentioned about like expanding membership and meeting with leaders and introduce the challenge of using public transportation, people with disabilities, and kind of more aware about that and getting fundings and to get easy use public transportation. That's, I feel, like a goal for BMAC for the future.
That's great. Yeah. So several of you mentioned the desire for BMAC to grow and continue building that network. Who do you think, like, for folks out there listening, how should folks know if there's someone who should join BMAC and tap into your network? I know that's a difficult question. Sorry.
No. Sorry. Amandeep, did you want to?
I think we have a platform, Hilo app, and we are working on that. And that's like a social media kind of things, like a Facebook and another platform. There's a lot of information there for us and for DRW, and people can look forward and to join that group and get more information about it. I think, Vanessa, you have something more about the add-in?
Yeah, Mandy, like you said, Hilo is such an expanding platform that people should tap into and check it out because it's so many opportunities, and you can check out what BMAC is doing from day to day. And if you're interested, and you can always post discussions and find out what we're doing. So that is a really good platform to check us out and to keep up to date on what we're doing.
And just to add that, as far as if you're right as far as joining membership, I mean, we are definitely looking for people who have disabilities, who are people of color and Indigenous, Black, Indigenous people of color, and people out. I mean, the more areas that we don't already have covered, the people from those areas, we definitely want to hear their voices. So if you feel like where you're living, it could have better access to transportation, then definitely reach out, let us know. We'd love to hear from you and learn more, because that's what we want to do, is help increase that access.
I'm wondering, Tanisha, if you or anyone can talk more about like what the current network of BMAC looks like the geographic areas that y'all have covered, and maybe just because maybe some of the BMAC folks and some of our listeners are like already connected, or there are folks that they can reach out to in their area.
Yeah, great question. We currently have myself. I'm in King County. We have Kitsap County members. We have Benton County members, Snohomish County members, and there was another one, Pierce County members. Outside of that, unless Amandeep or Vanessa, you know of a different one, we have a couple, at least one or two people in each of those counties. So if you are interested in getting in contact with one of those people, we have someone there. But if you didn't hear your county mentioned, then all the better to reach out and maybe be that voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think an important piece that you mentioned earlier, Tanisha, is that BMAC is, and from my understanding at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, but BMAC is open to folks who already have some experience, right, doing advocacy, but it's also open to folks who maybe are newer to that space, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really great. I love that piece about BMAC of just how like welcoming and like willing to meet folks wherever they're at in their organizing experience, because I feel like mobility, particularly BIPOC folks who have mobility issues, are like not something that an intersection that we talk about enough, you know, in our work, in the social justice world, in the like climate justice world. Like it's an intersection that is definitely underrepresented in conversation. So I think that's why BMAC is such an important organization, but also like building this network and building that people power has been really great to witness. Yeah, I wonder if anyone wants to like share about their thoughts or their experience so far of what it's like to be an organizer. And I don't know if maybe y'all would like self-label yourself or call yourself organizers or advocates, but yeah, I don't know. What is that like? It's a big question. I know, sorry. But it doesn't have to be like fully formed thoughts. But yeah.
This is Amandeep. I wanted to share about before I'm not part of BMAC or Disability Rights of Washington. I wasn't thinking about how challenges is about like bus shelter, bus stops, and I did not notice. Since we were talking, we are raising and we are like advocating how things impact people with a disability. In a rainy weather, it's hard to standing half an hour when bus is not coming. We kind of like notice those challenges, those things. Being in a BMAC group and BMAC organization, we are talks about it, and we were working on find couple of bus stops in our area and taking pictures and send it to like some public work to fix those problem. And I think that's the like a big progress. We are thinking in a different lens, different point of view. We are not like normally people are not notice those challenges. They are driving and they don't know about the things facing those challenges and standing in a rainy weather and in a cold. It's like that's makes changes and being in a BMAC group and think more about it critically and working more hard and yes.
Yeah, that definitely highlights the necessity of having folks with lived experience at like decision making tables. I think it that point really drives home why it's like important for folks that have I guess to say it again, like the lived experience and can talk about that and making space for those conversations, because there are definitely factors about the world that so many people would just like not stop and take the consideration for. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that, Amandeep. Tanisha, Vanessa, do you have other thoughts?
Yeah, it's like Amandeep said. This is Vanessa, by the way. It's hard to see the challenges if you're not living the challenges. And that's why we are promoting the Week Without Driving, which we'll get into later on in our segment, that I would love to discuss with all of you, my co-moderators, Tanisha and Amandeep. But just having that focus on the dependence of transportation, accessible transportation, and what that means to you to get to work, school, and to attend your daily activities, and how much that is important, not just to you, but for us as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tanisha, do you want to add anything?
Like that was essentially kind of covered it there. Yeah, as far as lived experience and every day and kind of working. I mean, it's enlightening working with this organization in front and centered, and realizing how much our experience, whether we realize it or not, really does have a great impact or is really knowledgeable and valuable in ways that we wouldn't realize unless kind of other people pointed it out in a way. You know, because before this, it's like, oh, I'm just someone in a wheelchair, but it's like, but you use this mode of transportation. You are, you know, one of the most knowledgeable people in how things should run. And if anybody should be consulted, it should be those people with that lived everyday experience rather than people who aren't using it at all. So
yeah, definitely. It's I agree, a very similar sentiment of just like feeling like, oh, I'm a subject matter expert in this thing that I didn't know. I didn't think I was going to be the expert on this, but it actually makes a lot of sense. And I think that it definitely highlights something in our society that we're just like not taught, that we're like the experts of our own lives and our own experiences, but that's definitely a true sentiment. And I think, you know, with that, we're getting close to our commercial break. So I want to just reiterate how thankful I am for this like first part of the conversation. And when we get back, we will be definitely diving even deeper into transit equity and even talking more so of like how these transportation issues and mobility issues also affect all these other aspects of our lives. So we will come back after our commercial break.
Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio Traffic Update. Are you nerdy by nature? The Crosscut Ideas Festival is back with captivating conversations to quench your curiosity. Explore issues in science, health, culture, and politics with thought leaders and innovators like Ibram X. Kendi, Audie Cornish, Eric Holder, John Quillen Hill, Andrew Yang, and more. April 29th to May 6th at the Amazon Meeting Center in downtown Seattle. It's the Crosscut Ideas Festival, where curiosity and discovery connect. Get your tickets at crosscut.com/festival.
On Rainier Avenue Radio.world, look for the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show. I'm Dennis Weaver, your good food guide and host, helping you to feel good and look good, and who wouldn't want some of that? All that and more from the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Stories, songs, and guests. Begin living the organic good food life, and the rest of your life just may be the best of your life. Always up, baby, to your health.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Come on, right?
Atlantic Street Center has been serving the children, youth, and families of the Seattle-King County area since 1910. We partner with families and communities to raise healthy, successful children and youth through services including counseling, early learning, youth development, domestic violence, and education support for school-aged children. Committed to serving the African-American community, Atlantic Street Center provides services and support for all marginalized people. Learn more at AtlanticStreetCenter.org.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not hearing men compare women to residential real estate, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Ow, things are bread. Ow.
Hello and welcome back to this Transportation Radio show. Before the break, we met Tanisha, Vanessa, and Amandeep, who are wonderful coordinators from the BIPOC Mobility Action Coalition, or BMAC for short. And they're also advocates in Washington State doing some really cool work really cool work on creating more accessible worlds and a just society. And welcome back, friends. So before the break, you shared about how moving around in the world is difficult for many reasons, and how transportation shouldn't really be an obstacle or another obstacle, I should say, that frontline communities endure. But I'm wondering now if maybe starting with Tanisha potentially, if you can share a little bit about how transportation equity impacts other aspects of our daily lives, and how it's not a singular option or a singular issue in our society, but something that is deeply sort of intersectional and bleeds into a lot of areas.
Yeah, definitely can kind of lead that off. One aspect of transportation equity is the fact that a lot of the transit services greatly service cities more than they do rural areas. And it doesn't even have to be super rural to be included in the not so served areas. Traditionally or historically redlined areas also tend to have less service, or I would say probably less stops. Maybe I myself living in Highland Park, which was formerly a redlined area, can definitely attest to there being, recent improvements, and obviously on the more busy streets, the main streets, there's more bus stops. But when you get further back into the neighborhoods, more towards the White Center area, you can definitely notice a lack of those aspects showing up. And those tend to be areas that are also more affordable when it comes to housing. And those tend to be areas where people with disabilities who also tend to have lower rates of income because of another systemic web of injustice. But yeah, they tend to be forced moving out into those areas where, we have to find more affordable prices, and where there tends to be more accessible housing. Because obviously in the city, if you want something accessible, it's going to be something that's new, and it's going to be something very expensive, something that will probably be beyond, what I could afford, definitely. So I think that is a big part of it, is that there needs to be more frequent and just in general an increase of bus stops in areas that are farther outside of the city, than just focusing on increasing transit and fixing the sidewalks within the metropolitan area.
Yeah, so definitely like expanding where public transit goes and the quality thereof, for sure. That makes a lot of sense, and seems like it has a lot of impact on housing and affordability and just displacement in general, as we continue to see that happen in our like really dense areas. Yeah, Vanessa, do you have like thoughts on this question too, of like how transportation equity continues to play out in our other aspects of our lives?
Yeah, well, when it comes to transit equity and affordable housing and the climb to get out of poverty, people want to work and get out of poverty. And without the reliable transportation, the cycle of poverty will continue to be a barrier. And because a lot of people depend on transportation to access job opportunities, and we should think about the low-income communities that can't afford a car or rely on someone else to take them to work. If there's a lack of transportation, people miss out on job opportunities and reduction of potential income. And that puts us right back in the same cycle that we began at. We want to prosper. People want to prosper. People want to be better than they were before. People want to be better than their generations before. They want to build an income of wealth or success, financial stability. It's important to have access to resources and services that can improve someone's life. But it's a collective effort that requires support from the community. So if we can tackle poverty, we can make a difference to those who are struggling. And those who really want to make a difference, and not just their lives, but everyone else around them in the entire community. And that's our focus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you drew up some like really good points around how our leaders in mobility and our leaders in transportation justice can be folks with that lived experience, but ultimately it does take everyone, or it takes like a larger buy-in. And I think that's something that the social justice like movement struggles with, right? Of like, how do you make people care about something that they don't think affects them? And that, I don't think there's an easy question to that, but it definitely takes a lot to get people behind the right movements and behind the right pieces of advocacy. So I think those were really good points. Thank you for sharing that, Vanessa. And Amandeep, do you have thoughts on this question as well?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Talking about like transportation equity, Tanisha mentioned about like people having like lack of transportation in a rural area, and Vanessa talks about people wants to go to work to get out of poverty. And for my question is like people, like my concern are people working hard to get out of poverty and like go outside of the red line house, and that area want to buy good house, and so that's affordable for them, like a standard budget. But like a new house build up is called these days as like a smart house, but they don't have the access for transportation. Even the area was good, price is going good, everything is perfect, but they are not able to drive their own, and they are rely on public transportation, and they have a lack of access to public transportation, and they feel they were so confused, and they don't want to come out their comfort zone to buy houses that area. They cannot having easy access to go to store, even though they have like a store nearby them, but they don't have a like convenient for transportation, and they cannot use the Uber, and they kind of having a hard time to buy those houses and living independently. This is like structure wise, like infrastructure, like they build up house, very higher technology and electronical, like microwave, dishwasher, and dryer. That's kind of basics needs, and they kind of interface things, and they are not accessible anymore for people with disability, like a blind. And I noticed the new house they have upstairs, and it's not easy to use for people with on wheelchair, even though they are like using car garage and they have a step there. It's like another challenge there. They're facing those challenges and get up those things, but still challenges there for them. And I feel like we need to expand public transportation and easy transportation, accessible transportation for those areas, new build up house and affordable, but still challenges there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're discussing like, oh, Vanessa, did you want to add? Huh?
No, I just agree. I agree. That's great.
Yeah, Amandeep, I really like that point of thinking of like how more modern homes, I suppose, are, and probably just homes in general, don't take into consideration the accessibility or mobility needs of folks, and how that in and of itself is another economic barrier probably to folks with disabilities, who then have to like take it upon ourselves to like customize a home, and like how those considerations are also not things that probably a lot of builders are taking into consideration as they're designing a home, or however construction really works, because I don't really know a lot about home construction. But those are great points of just like how transportation justice and just, I guess, mobility justice in general really affects all of these different aspects of lives, of daily lives. And I'm wondering too, if y'all folks want to like share at all, like the toll that takes to have to make more considerations and like all of these obstacles just to get to the places where you need to be, much less the places that you want to be, because transportation isn't just for getting to work and getting to the stuff. It's also like you want to have fun. It impacts the quality of your life, like you want to be able to go and do things and see people. I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but yeah, if anyone wants to share about like how any of the frustrations that build up based on these seemingly common issues that keep popping up.
I'll jump in. This is Tanisha. Yes, it is tiring. It is time consuming. It takes energy. There's a lot more planning involved. I mean, myself being a person with a disability, a fully dependent disability, I rely on other people to help with everything. So planning, time constraints, like everything already takes more time as it is. Like, so having that on top of it, planning around a bus schedule. I mean, planning around a bus schedule is better than planning around some of the paratransit services, but that's a different discussion. But yeah, it just takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, especially if you don't live near a bus stop, then that's a whole other hassle. It might be a 20-minute walk or a roll for some people to get to a bus stop. Fortunately, that's not the case for me, but that's because I chose an area where there was transit nearby. That was a big point of picking where I live, is there needs to be transit that I can access in case of an emergency. So yeah, it's time consuming, it takes energy, and then it definitely affects like whether I can actually get somewhere or not. I can't just go to Tacoma willy-nilly, and get just anywhere and expect to be there, within an hour or so, and then scheduling around bus schedule times. And yeah, it can be a headache.
Yeah, definitely. Amandeep or Vanessa, do you want to add to that?
This is Amandeep. Before I getting rides from my family, most of the sometime everyone busy on their work. They have their own schedule, and the Tanisha mentioned like a lot of energy and planning. Like think about it ahead of time. Oh, we need to go to that day these meetings. We need to go that day this, fun stuff and like some gatherings, and it's like taking 2 hours, 3 hours to get to Seattle, just like a 1 hour meeting. It's like getting back 3 hours again, snowmish. And think about it. So like not to decide not to go, decide to not to go. And it's like if you go and you think about it, like okay, I would really want to go, but like it takes Uber, it takes Lyft. You spend a lot money, but you save your time. One and another way, we giving away. If we save money, we lose time, like a time consuming. If we save time and we spend much way more,
Yeah.
and people who they drive, they kind of spend like whole week gas, and we can spend 1 hour.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really great point. Yeah.
And people cannot understand how we are like survive and rely on these things. And for 1 2 hour fun things, if I have like a Christmas party and spending 2 hours, like whole day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Vanessa, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want the listeners to understand the planning and time that comes with a non-driver that solo depends on some other sort getting them to and from. I'm not talking about getting into your vehicle and driving yourself to your appointment, driving yourself to an emergency, driving yourself to the grocery store, or driving yourself to work. I'm talking about planning. planning to go wherever your life entails you to go. So, for an example, let me break it down. If you have somewhere to go, you have work, we are employed. We have to be somewhere in the morning. 24 hours, 48 hours, we have to plan what we're going to do and when we're going to do and when we want to arrive and be on time. Like Tanisha and Amandeep said, it can be exhausting, but it is a part of the territory. That's a part of what we advocate for. We advocate for listeners and leaders to be understanding about how important the access to transportation is, because not everybody can just ask their mama and daddy or cousin, sister or brother for a ride. Some of us can't ask mom and daddy for a ride. Some of us have to get on that bus and plan ahead in a timely manner to get to work, to get to school, to get to our doctor's appointment, to take our kids to the events that they need to go to from day to day, to live in a productive lifestyle. This is what I want listeners to understand, the need of how dependent all of us, whether it's your grandmother, your grandparents, or maybe it could be your future children, they may depend on transportation. You never know how important it is to rely on the need of transportation. Think about it. Thank you.
Yeah, that was so powerful, Vanessa, and all of those answers were so powerful, and I think they really support, all of the message that y'all have been sharing so far of just the transportation is not, these issues are not something that's going to go away, and they're not new. Certainly not new issues that are just popping up. Like, they've been around for a long time, and I think a lot of the reason why they continue to persist is the lack of platform or just attention or inclusion that our systems, when like the folks that are in charge of transportation, that lack of inclusion of folks that have this lived experience and who are experts and can come up with solutions and have recommendations. I think even in this conversation, I've heard so many things, like great ideas of like, yeah, they should do that. Oh yeah, these people should do that. So I hope that like listeners, if you're out there and you have connections, now you know who are the folks that you should be talking to. And I hope that even if you're not someone in a position of power in the transportation realm, that you take some time after this to think about how your job and how you can just be more like mobility friendly, and follow this, like the BMAC, but all of the, like everyone's work and stuff. And as we're closing out today, I want to make sure that I make space for you three to share about the week without driving that you've kind of like dropped little Easter eggs for us for. But I don't know, do any of you want to share like what is the week without driving and what's it all about?
Yeah, this is Vanessa. I want to share a little bit about the week without driving experience and what that entails. So, the week without driving, the week without driving event calls on drivers to spend a week without driving. The goal is to help people who drive understand the barriers for the people who can't drive when accessing their communities. And the Week Without Driving event takes place this year on October 3rd to October 10th. I encourage everyone to participate. It's going to be a life-changing event, I promise you. I know that giving up your car keys, I know that this sounds like a challenge without driving. You might ask yourself, how am I going to make it to the grocery store? How am I going to take my kids to school on time? Or how am I going to make it to my doctor's appointment? Well, these are the same questions that non-drivers like myself and all of us ask ourselves every day. There are people in our communities, young, elderly, that cannot afford a vehicle, can afford to drive themselves, and of course, asking someone for a ride is not an option. So we urge everyone to get involved in this event. I believe it's going to be a life-changing event. I'm so excited about this and taking this event on with my BMAC members. It is such a phenomenal experience, and we'll provide the website and how you can register. This is something you definitely want to get involved with. October 3rd to October 10th. It's just a week. You can do it.
Yeah, Vanessa, thank you, Vanessa, for sharing that. But Tanisha, Amandeep, do either of you want to share anything about the week without driving? Any other perspectives or excitement?
Yeah. That was great what Vanessa had to say. Life-changing event for sure. Love that. Yeah, I mean, this is, what am I trying to say? Wow, words. Okay, so it is, we really want legislative coverage and what people, our politicians to be involved in this. The decision makers. It would be great if they could really participate in this, since they're the ones kind of making the decisions about public transportation, but they're rarely the ones to be using it. But also, a big call out to community members, because, we're trying to promote what it's like, the experience, the lived experience that we have every day, for you to get an experience like that for, just a week of your life, to try to get a better understanding of what it is we go through, the planning, the process, the missed events because you just couldn't make it. There wasn't a time frame. There wasn't a bus that would be able to pick you up at that time. And just kind of getting a better understanding of what it's like for people who do have to do that on a daily basis all their lives. They don't have a choice. And then that could maybe make you a better informed voter, because it's like, one day it's like, oh, well, that doesn't affect me. I don't really care, whatever. But after that week without driving, you might just be like, hey, if I'm ever without my car, I would want those services to be better. I would want it to be more accessible. I would want it to be more frequent. And you put a little more care into that vote. And that's all we're asking, a week of your time, and, just give it an honest effort, a college try, as they say, and see how it changes your life.
Absolutely. And as Vanessa shared earlier, the week without driving is October 3rd through the 10th. I know it seems like that's like far away, but it's going to sneak up on us, I'm sure. And it's good to put it on your calendar ahead of time, because I think for folks who are drivers or who are just maybe not as experienced with the public transit system, as all three of these folks have said, it's going to take a lot of planning and take a lot of time. So, and that's like the purpose of it, to, I think, really get folks to see, to kind of experience a little bit of the struggle that it is. And as both folks said earlier, to really understand why we need legislators and politicians doing a better job with transit justice and creating policies that really work for the communities that are most impacted and need them the most, but also so that anything could happen, and one day you may find yourself needing the public transit system, and it's better to make sure that's a well-functioning system sooner rather than later, I think. But I wanted to turn it to Amandeep to share a little bit about another organization that you're affiliated with. So I'll turn it to you.
Okay, yes, I am. A few years ago, I connected with a blind organization. It's called National Federation of the Blind, and I'm part of Seattle chapter. And I was immigrant. I was new here, and I heard things okay, we have an issue with the transportation. We have an issue with the bike sharing ride program in Seattle. And there's like a lot of people using cane. They're having a hard time to walk around on the sidewalks because people leave their scooters anywhere. And we were talking about, we advocating for people with a disability, people on wheelchairs, and rising voice. And because individual voice is not heard, and when we get together and voice can heard to everyone, and power of voice. And I heard a lot of things and working on that, advocating on that. And for Week Without Driving, I want to say to listener to experience the planning that Tanisha mentioned and Vanessa mentioned about it. I had a lot of drivers, they're not using public transportation, never ever. They're complaining about stucking in traffic. And it's like, you guys are like hop on the car and go away, and you're not thinking about planning to go somewhere. And sometimes some drivers are like planning to go like a very short timing, and they can understand how is ahead of time. Planning takes time, energy, and they can understand when they are participating in Week Without Driving. And also we need to encourage to like our another like not legislative leaders and like another community members, like in the temples, in the church, we need to talk about and promoting Week Without Driving. That would be great, and they can learn and understand how benefit transportation system better for everyone.
Oh, that was wonderful, Amandeep. Thank you. And I think we're coming to the end of our program today. So I just want to say thank you so much to the folks who tuned in, but also thank you so much to Tanisha and Vanessa and Amandeep for joining me today and just for all the work that y'all are doing. I know that there's so much more collaboration in our future, but thank you so much, all of you, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Everyone have a good day.
You too.
You as well. Take care.